Welcome again to our course on biodesign, strategies for innovation and design on bioengineering. Today we're going to take a look at market analysis as our topic for this class. Okay, so if we go to slide 2, we can see our objectives for this class. I want you to learn how to divide the market into homogeneous market segments. I want you to appreciate how to define the market size, how to think on what is a big market size, and the competitive dynamics that there are going to be in each market segment. I want you to recognize how well customer needs are met in a certain type of market segment, and how to address each and every single need in every single segment, and the willingness to pay for these different segments, which is going to be something really important for your device innovation criteria. I want you to know how to identify which market segments to target. They might be the smallest, the largest, the less competitive, or the most competitive. It doesn't matter. I just want you to know which ones are the ones that you have to tackle. Also, to understand how to package this information into a reasonable, fact-based assessment of the market opportunity, which is going to be something really synthetic that you're going to have to know how to convey when pitching these type of opportunities. And of course, if you stay longer in this class, you're going to see a practical case, which is going to be really enlightening in terms of market analysis. Alright, so if we go to slide 3, we can see that the challenge of market research is evident. Trying to come up with a quantitative analysis of what is the market of my innovation might be just as looking at an article to see if what I'm thinking is actually correct. As you're going to see, doing thorough and accurate market analysis is something non-trivial. And this is something especially difficult in early stage innovation. As you are going to see, many of your first market analysis are going to be full of assumptions, and most of them might be really bold or even really inaccurate. But at the end of the day, something that you have to do, and it's something really important to tackle very early on in early stage innovation, because if you don't, then you are very unlikely going to create a compelling value proposition to move your project forward. So market research and market analysis and packing everything in a sense, and sound value proposition is going to be of critical importance for your biodesign process. So if we go to slide 4, you can see one of the very important parts of market research, and this is segmentation. Market segmentation is defined as the activity of actually breaking down the market into very small segments that might or might not have a lot of assumptions in it. But at the end of the day, it's a breakdown that is going to help you figuring out what is your target market and what are the different market segments that there are, so that you can explore in which one you want to enter because of their competitive dynamics, or because of their size, or the opportunity to enter as a first mover or as an early follower. Okay, so if we see here still in slide 4, we have an example of how a market can be broken down. And as we're going to see in the next slides, every single segment that you think is already segmented can be further segmented in more and more and more subsegments, so that you actually accomplish our goal of breaking down the market into the smallest pieces possible. In this case, we're going to explore the case of chronic kidney disease. So if we see at slide 4, you can see that the segmentation of CKD can be created from the different type of patients that suffer from this condition. As you can see here, in CKD, there can be two types of patients, the ones that are diagnosed and the ones that are not diagnosed. So let's think for a minute that the ones that we are likely or that we want to help at the end of the day are the ones that are not diagnosed. So maybe this is telling us that we want to create a new diagnosis system that is more tailored or adjusted to those patients that have this disease and that are not diagnosed. So as you can see, we can further segment this non-diagnosed segment in the different degrees that this is, in the different disease stages that this disease has. In this case, there is mild, moderate, and severe chronic kidney disease, and also there is the end-stage renal disease. Let's think for a minute that we want to focus on the most morbid and mortal form of this disease, ESRD, and in the segment of non-diagnosed patients. If we go to slide 5, we can see that we can further break down that small segment in blue with patients with end-stage renal disease, and with this we can break down in the different type of treatments, the treatments or the non-treatments that there can be in the type of patients that are not diagnosed. So let's think for a minute that with these ESRD patients, there are the ones that are awaiting for treatment and the ones that are not awaiting for treatment, or the ones that they have been already treated for more than a year or two. And with those, we can think that some of them are treated with peritoneal dialysis and others are treated with hemodialysis. And as you can see here, we have already broken down this small segment in almost 5 different classes that many of you could think, oh, well, how do I go by and subsegment that much every single market? Well, this is, as I said, this is a very complex, sometimes a very complex endeavor. And one tip and trick that I can give you here is that for every single market, for every single big market that you are probably going to tackle in a biodesign process, there is probably a journal paper or a research analysis that somebody has already done on what are the different types of stages of a disease, or the different types of ways in which you can segment a patient population regarding that specific disease. And then you can take that information to create market segments. Something that could be really difficult to do later on is to actually know exactly how many $1 million or $1 billion every single segment is worth. This could also be resolved using market analysis, market research analysis, some of which are really costly, some may be free for you to download in your own bibliographical resources in universities, institutions, or even in private companies. So if you have the opportunity to know what are the databases that you can access in your university or graduate program, try to do so. This is going to be of critical importance to actually break down your market in the best way possible. So if we go to slide 6, you can see that even after subsegmenting this chronic kidney disease market, you can further segment everything. You can even that little segment that we segmented in 5 different types of treatments and treatment options. We can further segment that from the ones that are taking care with a surgeon and a transplant center, and the ones that are taking care with a nephrologist and a dialysis or a peritoneal dialysis center. With that in mind, then we can further segment this into the ones that are paid into the patients that are reimbursed, or the clinical events that are reimbursed by either Medicare or Medicaid, or through out-of-pocket expenses, which I call here commercial or private insurance, which might or might not be out-of-pocket. If we go to slide 8, we can see a more synthetic but as complex market segmentation as the one that we saw before. In this case, this talks about acute kidney injury, and specifically, if we were to create a new point-of-care diagnostic for acute kidney injury, how we could go by subsegmenting this market. And one example of this could be the one that I'm showing here, in which you can start, from the global sales market for all the point-of-care diagnostics, which in this case is, for example, almost $13 billion US. From that, you can try to subsegment in the ones that are used within hospitals and the ones that are used outpatiently. Let's think for a minute that our focus is on hospital point of care testing, which is the one that is more likely to be to accept a solution on a early diagnosis of acute kidney injury, for example. Let's think for a minute that we have already searched on databases and we know that this segment is worth around $2 billion US. Then we can subsegment that even more on the ones that are critical, that are taken care in a critical care settings, the ones that are not. If we focus again on the ones that are taken care in a critical care settings, you can see that the market is reduced more and more, in this case from 5 to 700 million US. And from that, all that segment might be your target market. And this is a very important concept that you have to know. When you do segmentation, the very least that you want to subsegment is towards your target market, which is the market that you are absolutely sure that you can enter with the type of solution that you are trying to envision, or by solving the problem that you have already stated in a need statement, in a well-done need statement. If that need statement relates to a particular market segment, that is the segment that you want to stay on. And if you want to subsegment more, you are free to do so, but it's not as important as subsegmenting towards that target market. Nonetheless, subsegmenting more the market gives you credibility and also gives you a more in-depth sense of how the market in that same target market distributes, to know what are your actual customers, and this is going to drive nice innovation products that are very likely going to be accepted. In this case, let's say that we can break down in many, thinking on the phases of renal disease or acute kidney injury, and to know how many patients there are that could be tested for this condition or monitored for this condition, and we can end up with the number of in the critical care settings that there are in the world, or at least in the US and Europe, about 330,000 different ICU beds, all of those which are occupied every single day in the world. And basically that could be your market segmentation and your market size, 330,000 different beds in which you can use daily, once or twice or thrice or 3 times a test for rapid diagnosis or monitoring of acute kidney injury. And your market might be even larger if you go up and up and explore, for example, inpatient and outpatient settings. So you have to think about exactly what are the markets that you want to tackle and then segment that in this way that I believe it's understandable and neat at the end of the day. Okay, if we go to slide 9, you can see the difference between market segments. And this is something really important that you have to know always. The markets can be subsegmented, thinking on the patients, thinking on the payers, and thinking on the providers. But a very well done market analysis is always gonna consider the 3 of those. Why? Because the ones that use the product might not be the patients, so you have to take to consider the providers, and the ones that at the end of the day pay for the procedure are payers. So thinking on this, considering subsegmentation that includes the patients, the providers, and the payers is something truly important, and some things that you can explore or characteristics that you can explore or know more about to know how to segment your market can be found in this slide that you can see later on in the course. Okay, so if we go to slide 10, you can see other types of ways you can, more than segmenting the market, is how there are some ways to explore the competitiveness of the market. And this is something really important because once that you know your target market, what you have to do now is run some types of analysis to know how competitive that specific segment is, because you might not be willing or able to even compete in a market that is highly competitive or that has been known to block innovation or that is resistive to change. And in this sense, it could become really important and useful to run a couple of different analyses. In this case, the Porter's 5 force and the SWOT analysis. Let's start with the Porter's 5 force analysis in slide 10. You can see that there are forces that interconnect in each other, but at the end of the day, they all go towards a competitive rivalry. You have the threat of new competitors. You have the bargaining power of customers. You have the threat of substitute products, and you have the bargaining power of suppliers. All of those have different forces and drive basically drive the market towards a more competitive or less competitive field. The threat of new competitors is something that is fairly easily understandable. Is how likely is that there is going to be someone new that makes something either better or cheaper, or even a lame competition, but at least a competition. How likely is that a new competitor can enter into the market? As you are going to see, there are markets that are very difficult to enter on because of the speciality that it's required to actually enter into the field, or because that the know-how to enter into this industry is very tightly protected by the corporations or companies that are already in that space, or it could be something really easy, as we're seeing in these markets of mobile technology, in which the platforms and the tools required for developing these types of solutions are widely open, which of course drives competition, drives new and better products, but also is a threat at the end of the day for anybody that enters into that market. The bargaining power of customers is how capable is each and every single customer of actually modifying the price of your device. So what is the power of those customers to alter the price of the product? If the company is in the entire power of putting the price that they want, and the customers are gonna buy the product no matter its cost, then it means that the bargaining power of customers is low. But on the other side, if you increase in $1 or whatever it is the price of your product, and the customers are right away unwilling to buy the product, then that means that this specific market segment is probably is very high on the bargaining power of customers, and that might be another barrier for entry or exploring this market. The threat of substituting products is similar to the threat of new competitors, but relates more about the current solutions that there are in the market, or the current things that customers can do to substitute your product. So if you bring a very interesting new device to the market that can be substituted by a common practice in the field, or by acquiring new habits in a hospital situation, or by using other materials in combination, and the outcome is the same or slightly the same, then that means that the threat of substituting your product is high, and that could be another barrier for you to enter. Finally, the bargaining power of suppliers is how well developed is the industry to manufacture your product. If there are only very few manufacturers that could help you developing the product, then that means that they are in all the power to increase the cost of the supplies or the raw materials or the production process, which will drive the price up of your device and will also be a barrier for you to compete on the market. And at the end of the day, all these go inside a competitive rivalry that basically defines how competitive is the market and how easy it is to enter, to compete, to create new products, and to bring something successful to the market. Okay, so that was Porter's 5 forces. If we think now in SWOT analysis, this could be a simpler type of analysis, but it also expresses very different dynamics on the market. So if we go to slide 11, we can see a very simplistic diagram of how the SWOT analysis works. In this type of diagram, you're going to try to lay out or to make a list of all your weaknesses and strengths as a company or as a medical device innovator, and those are going to be, as you can see up there, internal factors of your business. You're also going to have external factors, which are threats and opportunities, and you have to announce that too in this type of diagrams. You know that a weakness is something negative and a strength is something positive, the same way a threat is something negative and opportunities are something positive. And basically what this gives you is, in a very easy way to describe, all your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that basically define how well you are prepared, or how the market, how receptive is going to be the market to the entrance of a new product in your company. With that in mind, if we go to slide 12, you can see a chart that the biodesign group actually proposes in Stanford, and that I think it's very interesting and valuable to take as a way to synthesize all this information in a very sound and easy digestible package of information. By doing this market segment funnel diagram, we are basically defining our target market, but also we are defining all the segments, or most of the segments that we were exploring, and also the market size and all the market dynamics. And it's basically a compilation of all the information that we have seen in this presentation so far. So let's take a look at this. If we see the market segments, you can see that it's divided into 4 different blocks: an input and an output. The input are the market segments, so you have to put all the information inside this funnel that you have already researched on your segmentation analysis. With this, you're going to feed the first block, which is the largest, and it's basically the market size. With this, you're going to know, you have to put it in a very blunt way, and this is you can do this differently, but this is a very interesting suggested method. You must put the number of patients that are in your market size, or the number of users that are going to be in your market size, the total dollar value of the segment, the segment growth rate, so it's 5%, it's 6%, it's 12%, so the better, the larger, the better. Accessibility of the segment, so how easy is to enter into the segment. Are there many gizmo guys and key opinion leaders that are willing to use this solution, or there are not? The ability to charge for new products on this market, and the potential to reimburse for these products. So as you're going to see, especially in the US market, reimbursement is a very important topic that we're going to explore more thoroughly in next presentations. But at the end of the day, is how well is prepared the government system to pay for a device that tackles a certain clinical need, with a code of reimbursement and of course a payment fee. After that, that market size and all this information goes the market dynamics, and the market dynamics talks about the number of competitors, the maturity of products, how the revenue could be, and the profitability of these market segments. And then you feed this block with all your Porter's 5 forces analysis and your SWOT analysis outputs. And at the end, you want to feed this block with how interested are investors in this segment. So as you're going to see, funding is going to be a critical step on your biodesign process at the very end. But you have to think about that from the beginning, and this is the time to think about it from the first time. Is this segment hot in the industry? Is not hot? Can you pinpoint investors that are interested in this type of segment, and you have to put that on this block. After that, there is the block of market needs, and with this you can think on if the need is unmet, or there are a lot of market gaps, which needs vary from which segments, and that can come from previous presentation analysis that we have already explored. And of course, at the end, in the funnel, there is a willingness to pay, which can be fed from the Porter's 5 forces analysis, but that basically should be stated in a very simple way: how willing and open is the market that you want to tackle in terms of adopting new technologies and buying new products. And with that, you, at the end of this funnel, should be able to thoroughly and synthetically describe what is your market. So my market is the rapid early diagnosis of acute kidney injury in a population, in an inpatient population in critical care settings, or whatever you want it to be. With this in mind, I want you to give you some tips and tricks on the type of numbers that you want to get when you do this analysis, so that you can validate early on if this is a market in which you want to enter. So for example, market size. What is a big market size? That's always a very common question. And in the experience of many device innovators, more than $500 million globally should be a fairly nice threshold to explore. So if your total global market size for your market segment, okay, for your target market segment, is less than $500 million, that doesn't mean that you don't have to work on this, but it's very likely that it's gonna be a little bit more complicated to work in. But if it's larger than $500 million and nearer to 1 billion or more, then you will know that you are in the right path to tackling a big economical and clinical need. You want to enter into market segments that have a growth rate of more than 6%, overall. If you can go into a segment that is that has a greater than 6% market growth rate, then it's very, very convenient, because in that sense your assumptions are going to grow instead of staying in a plateau or even reducing, okay, when you do financials later on in the course. And with that, all your strengths and weaknesses can be laid out in the way you want. Okay, so with this we have concluded our basics on market research and market analysis. Please, if you want to know more about this topic, go and refer yourself to our biodesign course book from Senius and Stanford Biodesign in the chapter 2.4. So for more information, go there, explore the chapter a little bit more, and thank you for watching. I'm Luis Swenson. Welcome again. If you stayed longer, then that means that you are in the practical case of our class on market analysis. So for today's practical case, we're going to take a look at the problem of presbyopia. So presbyopia, as you may know, is a condition that largely affects people that is older than 35, 40 years old. And basically, what I want you to try to practice is how you early on, without doing these sometimes very complex market segmentation and looking for market analysis, how you know that a market is big and that a market is going to be as big as you want it to be. Okay, how large a market can be. And this, I think it's very well exemplified with the problem of presbyopia. If we go to slide 15 in this case, we can see that in our mini case, presbyopia is a condition in which the light from that enters into the eye is not well focused in the back of the eye, in the part where the vision is translated into electrical impulses that go to the brain. This region is called the fovea. And basically what happens in presbyopia is that the muscles of that create this adaptation, this optical adaptation in the most optically active parts of your eye are stiff, and basically these muscles are not able to adjust your lenses to actually focus well the letters or the images that you see from very close to you. And basically this is a classic problem which you have to see a book from far away to see the small letters. And this is something, as you know, that happens to many people. But let's think for a minute that you just became aware of the problem of presbyopia, and you want to know if you want to further explore the market on this sense. Okay, so from very easy search in Google and in any other databases, you're gonna find right away that, first of all, presbyopia affects over 90% of all individuals that are over 40%, 40 years old, which basically means that almost everybody that it's above 40 years old is going to become sick of this disease. And presbyopia cannot be perceived as a disease, but it is. And basically, it means that if you are in a market in which almost 90% of all the people that goes into that age is going to suffer from a condition, then that means that the market is probably pretty big. So, but let's think for a while that we're skeptical, and we go down exploring a little bit more. And this is not more than a half an hour analysis in the internet search. But as you're gonna see, the information is gonna come really easily. In this case, for example, the next data. Presbyopia is the most prevalent ocular condition affecting visual performance in the world. And it is estimated that over 1.8 billion people suffers from presbyopia worldwide. And if you think about how many 1.8 billion people is, it's a lot. And that's further validation that the market might be really, really big, okay? Then if we go to further data, you can see that the worldwide total market is expected to reach 2.2 billion people in 2020, which means that probably the market growth is also pretty big. Okay, so further analyzing this, you can see more specific markets. Okay, so of the 225 million Americans that suffer from some type of refractive error, so ocular error, about 120 million, okay, have to undergo some sort of visual correction for presbyopia. That means that almost half of all the people that have any visual problem is related to presbyopia, another validation that the market might be really, really big. Okay. Also, if you go exploring more and more data, you can see that approximately 50 million Americans have this type of correction, use correction glasses of some sort of solution for presbyopia, you know, and that's your market. It's like 50 million people use some sort of solution for this. And if you do a better solution for this problem, you might tackle this entire market. Okay, and if you go on and on and on with the market, you're going to see that not only this market is really big, but it's also full of solutions that might be inconvenient, like trifocals, or solutions that are not permanent, or solutions that might not be as good as the ones that you might think of. And with that, you can approximate a multi-billion-dollar market opportunity that you can tackle with that cool innovation. And basically, this is in half an hour of exploring some market data facts, you can know that a market is really, really big. You know, and you're not gonna know for sure maybe exactly how much the market is worth until you go and explore actual market research analysis well done, but you are gonna know with a fairly good sense of consistency and certainty that the markets that you're exploring early on are really, really big. Okay, so first takeaway from this. If it's really, really, really difficult to find market data on a certain problem, it might happen because of two reasons. First, either the market is so small for that specific segment that it's not as important for market researchers to explore, or second, is a new market that nobody has actually explored, and that basically you have to grow on your own, which might be a good thing for you if you want to dedicate yourself for this for the next 10 to 15 years. But if you don't, and you're a serial entrepreneur that wants to build something in a year or two and do something nice and valuable, and then exit and go to a next venture, then this type of market might not be for you. So this fits with your inclusion criteria and your mission statement, and also with a goal of actually not spending that much time on sub-segmenting different types of market segments in early stage innovation. Nonetheless, market segmentation and market analysis is something that you should do when you're thinking professionally to do a bio-design process, and if you have the time and money to do so. But if you don't, or if you want to explore this in a less thorough way, then you can do this type of explorations, which are more than enough to create an economical value proposition. All right, so with this we have concluded the practical case on presbyopia and market analysis. If you want to know more about this topic, please refer to our biodesign group, book from Senius and Biodesign Stanford, in the point 2.4 on market analysis. My name is Luis Soengsen. Thank you for watching.